Marq Torien, it's BulletBoys in the house. I just heard the new songs. I can't believe it, Mark. Thank you so much for blessing us with the preview.
Oh, anytime. Thank you.
I can't wait for you to unleash that on the world.
Yes!
It's time to rock.
Oh,
man.
we're so excited.
So now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a city here in Los Angeles called Montebello.
Okay.
Montebello, California, right next to Monterey Park in East Los Angeles.
Sure. And I bet as a teenager you used to come into Hollywood and hit the clubs.
Constantly, Jay. I was catching a bus at
Now,
15.
were you early enough to hit like the Starwood and some of those?
Yeah,
or?
but I never got in because I was too young still, you know.
Oh,
so I would go out and sit by the backstage door and try to like sneak in, and you know, a couple of friends of mine and my best friends, we got in one time and then we were thrown out as quickly as we were thrown. Don't come back in here. You can't come back in here, you're too young.
So you did like the Gazzarri's and the whiskey and the Roxy and stuff like that.
You know,
Troubadour.
Yeah, it was a lot easier kind of to get into those places for some reason.
I think whiskey's always been all ages or something.
Yeah, and absolutely. And the Troubadour is like, you know, that place is just amazing. I mean, I've done so many playing of shows and from the get-go, straight in high school, playing in my high school band there. And I love the Troubadour.
Yeah, such history. Everybody's played there.
Yeah, just amazing.
I remember Kiss played there at one point.
Yes.
Everybody played there.
One of the first times I played there is, speaking of Kiss, there was a really, I had a very close friendship with a guy by the name of Greg Jeffrey. And Greg Jeffrey was in a huge band called Angel.
Yeah, of course.
Gigantic. So Greg basically took me under his wing when I came into Hollywood, and he brought Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley to my shows at the Troubadour, and they would come in and it's like, I can't believe these guys are here. And they just thought I was really talented, and you know, Gene would talk to my mom at the shows, and it was just, you know, I've had some wonderful, amazing talent around me, and I've been very blessed to have those kind of people around me from the get-go, from even when I first got into Hollywood.
So you had the fever at your early age.
Yes.
You had the rock bug. You knew what you were here for.
Oh, I've been in the business since I was 7. I've been recording in the studio since I was about 7 or 8.
That's amazing.
I come from a very serious musical background. My father is a trombonist, playing the Stan Kenton's orchestra. My mother's a singer, vocalist who's played in every single choral choir group in Los Angeles, and my parents would sing for different big acts that would come in and play, whether it was Sinatra or what have you, you know, Goodman or all these different bands. They'd pick up cats that would play in L.A. or New York or wherever these bands were going, and they'd pick up my father because my father was just, you know, excellent musician. Still is, 85 years old. Has a 25-piece jazz orchestra. They just cut their first record. Excuse me, and I got to listen to it the other day. I was so proud of him, man. He's, you know, my father worked 3 different jobs and was worked in the Los Angeles City School Districts as an educator and a principal, and eventually an administrator, where he was a principal of a high school. And him and my mother worked very hard in the LA City School District. My mother was one of the first person to actually start the Head Start program here in Los Angeles, and just a brilliant woman, and they worked so hard, and my dad never chased that dream of becoming this musician that he wanted to do, and kind of gave it up for raising children. Yeah. So I've been driven my whole career to try to do something special for him and my mom that they didn't get a chance to go into and delve into their career like they wanted to. Wow. So I continue to try to do that and write music at the highest level that I can write it on, because I'll get smack from my dad and mom. They'll listen to it and go.
It's all about the songs.
Yeah, and they'll be like,
you can be a great player, but the songs are what live on.
It's all about the songs. It's not about anything else. It's the songs, the writing, the melodies. So
that's
very,
what sticks in our brain.
Really blessed that I have
parents like that. And
parents
that's what can get covered years and years from now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where BulletBoys were blessed. You know, we.
Now, how did you guys get together? Because I know you did a little stint in Rat before that.
Well, yeah.
Sang with the boys.
I've done some stints in a couple of different things, you know, throughout the years. One of them was Rat. I was, you know, the
One of the times
one of the
Steven
guys.
had left?
Stephen. No, actually, Stephen. It's actually when they kicked Warren out of the band.
Oh, you play guitar.
So Warren, yeah, I play guitar. So Warren was their guitar player, and for all intents and purposes, I was very close with Robin and Stephen, and we were very good friends. And right before I joined Rat, I was playing with Ozzy Osbourne, and I was the guitarist and got hired to be the guitarist for the European side of the tour.
Who else was in the band with you?
Tommy Aldridge, Rudy Sarzo, Donnie Airy, and myself and Ozzy. I was very privileged to meet Ozzy and Sharon at a time when Ozzy was probably at the height of some of his demons and things that were happening to him with his particular, I guess, drug use.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to meet him and Sharon through Greg Jaffria. And they were up at Greg's house one day, and Greg called me up and said, "Hey, Ozzy's looking for a guitar player. Can you come up to my house with your guitar?" So I said, "Sure." Went to my mom's house, drove up there, and met Ozzy and played him some music. And he was completely blown away, flabbergasted that this young kid could play all those Randy Rhoads chops. So I started working with him, and Sharon was such an angel and so sweet to me and so kind, and ended up rehearsing with the band and going through all that whole thing, and everything sounded great. Rudy was like just an angel and guided me through a lot of different things at the time, and him and his gal Rebecca, Becky, they were such sweethearts to me,
Yeah,
because
he's a great
I'm
guy.
coming into this thing out of coming in from Monterey Park and into this this big
This was
thing.
before Rat?
Yes. So
Okay.
what happened was I don't really know, but this is the story that I get. I was supposed to go to Europe with them, had all my stuff ready, and I'm sitting there waiting for 3 days, and they finally call me with all my stuff packed. And they talked to my mom, and Sharon basically told my mom, I think Mark's too young right now, and Ozzy feels that he might be too young to this and too close to what he just went through with Randy. Brad Gillis just stopped playing for us, but we're going to be recruiting a guy by the name of Bernie Tormé to do the shows and the rest of the shows for the Diary of Madman tour. So of course I was crushed, but he had bought me guitars and some equipment. So from there I was just pretty crushed, and I would go out and hang out with Steven, one day we were just sitting and Steven says, "You got to join Rat. Forget this guy. You were in the LA Times as the guitar player. Join Rat. Let's get you in Rat." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I get to play with one of my favorite bands ever." And I've always held Stephen in a very high regard, because Stephen...
And this is with Robin Crosby?
Yes. And Robin was just, he's just an angel. He was a man that really had the biggest heart and soul in this business, and got consumed by his demons and people, everything that was around him. I wish that the people were around him were there to help him.
So unlike Ozzy that got the help, he didn't.
Right. No one. And I think Robin really was crying desperately for help, and I don't think anybody in the... I don't know, because I don't know the particulars of it, but I know Stephen.
If you hid it from him.
Stephen, because I speak to Stephen, have chats with him a lot, and one of the biggest things was, he didn't know that he was... I don't think he really knew that Robin was that bad, but I was talking to him. I said, Robin wrote all those songs with Stephen. He was the catalyst to, when I was in the band, to become that thing. I remember I always tell Stephen, I go, "Remember the calendars that you used to have? And at the end of every calendar," he goes, "Rat would be signed." I said, "Yeah." I go, I took that prowess from him that I learned and continued on after I wasn't in Rat, and they let me go and brought Warren back into the band. I got to see all their huge comeuppance and their infestation on the world with their band, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, I just, one day we were just working, and myself and Lonnie, and we were just saying, listen, we got to put a band together that's really going to do something special. I don't think anybody really believes that we're as talented as we are. We got to stop drinking, we got to stop partying, we got to stop hanging out, and let's just focus. So we were I was very fortunate, because at the time Carmen Peace was looking for a singer in in King Cobra, and Lonnie was already playing in King Cobra, and he said, listen, you know, we need a singer, come and drop the guitar, can you get rid of the guitar and just be the front man? I was like, no, I don't know about that, I like playing guitar and singing, and I've done it my whole life. So he goes, I promise you, if you drop the guitar, just come and be our front man. So I came in and was a scab player for King Cobra, and we formed the BulletBoys out of that band because myself, Lonnie, Carmine Apiece ruled that band with an iron fist.
Yeah,
and
it was his project.
It was his project and his band. He was like 45, 46 at the time, and we were young, and we just did not see eye to eye with what he was trying to do.
You didn't want to be the hired hand.
No, my prowess was, hard rock, metal, R&B, punk rock music. That's what I grew up with. I didn't grow up with the music that this band King Cobra was writing. It wasn't my style. So Mick Sueda was actually very disgruntled with the band too. So in our off time, we would just get together and start writing. And I had some songs, and I started working with Lonnie, Smooth Up, and had these ideas to redo For the Love of Money. I was signed with Motown, and Motown to me is one of the greatest labels ever on the face of the planet ever.
I just interviewed the executive producer 2 nights ago who put together a new 7 CD box set. It premieres this weekend.
For the 25th?
The 25th anniversary.
I was there.
But there's this new box set. There's like 30 tracks no one's even heard of, versions.
Yes.
It's coming right out, man.
No, I can't wait.
It was an unbelievable machine that Motown had.
Well, I was very fortunate to be signed with that mogul by Benny Medina and Carrie Ashby Gordy Jr.
Wow.
We did a record called Cagney and the Dirty Rats.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, it was kind of a new wave record.
Okay.
And Benny and Carrie had this company called Pocket Rock Productions. And a guy by the name of Steven St. James, Steven Santiago, was singing in this group. And Steven was in this band called Sarge on the Strip.
Oh, sure.
And he ended up going with Motown. So I don't know how he got in. Steve was moving and shaking all the time. So he gives me a call. He goes, listen, we really need a singer in this band. Can you come in and check this thing out? So I came in, and they had this beautiful song called Emotions. It's a throwback R&B, real R&B-ish. The Temptations were singing backgrounds on it. And I was like, oh my God, if I could go in and the Temps, I could sing on some of the Temps, and Junior Walker was playing horn on this, and Rick James was helping write, and I'm going, oh my gosh, if I could get signed to Motown, I think I could die and go to heaven, So it eventually happened. I signed with Motown and did this record, and it's one of my favorite times.
So this is like mid-'80s?
Yes, very beginning of the 80s.
Okay.
So it was...
You used to go to the big Motown building on Sunset.
There, right on Sunset.
Next to the Palladium.
We used to go out, we recorded all the record at the studio in Santa Monica. What's the studio called?
Over by Highland or by Vine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right by Los Burritos, where that park was. I can't think of the name of it, but...
Westlake?
No.
It wasn't Westlake. Okay.
Gosh,
Radio recorders, one of those.
It was their studio, Motown studio.
Okay. So obviously
I was so privileged to
there were hallowed halls.
Yes.
All the legends have been through there. Marvin Gaye and Rick James and
everybody. So I was really, really fortunate to do that and to do that record, and that ended up getting me with working with Al DeBarge at the height of his career. I toured with him and played guitar and all these things, and people that really helped me. Benny Medina, I mention his name a lot. Benny was one of the first guys that really took a chance with me and signing me to a label. And further on down the line, Benny was the head of the R&B side of Warner Brothers.
The urban side.
The urban side. So when I get to Warner Brothers, there's Benny still. He's like, he goes, I told you, Ted, this is my guy, So I was like, oh my God. It was just like all these people that have helped me. I've been so blessed and ingratiated that I've learned so much. And hey, man, there's a lot of artists that did a lot huger things than I've done, but I've been very blessed, and I'm very happy with the people that I've worked with, and to be able to work with some of these musical geniuses and
Where
that
you're
are,
still alive and moving forward.
Right.
Got great new music, and that's what's important.
that's the most
So I know
important thing.
BulletBoys wasn't together that long before Ted came down and saw the group. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. We
Came together pretty fast.
Well, it was a tough thing because we had an issue with trying to find the right drummer when we first started, and there was a lot of drummers that came. We had a lot of different auditions, and Lonnie had been playing with Carmine for so long that he didn't want to really step down and work with somebody that was at a lower tier than him. Hence Jimmy DeAnda. Jimmy DeAnda came in when he was 18, 19 years old. I discovered Jimmy when he was a friend. My sister was very close with his older brother, and she was very adamant that I needed to see him play because he was really talented and one of the only talents in South Montebello. So I ended up, we used to hook up all the time, and Jimmy used to come to my house. We used to go to the movies and smoke joints together, just do whatever, just to hang out with him because, I thought he was a great player. And I eventually got him into the band, and Lonnie did not want to play with him because Jimmy's meter was all over the place. Poor guy, he just couldn't, he just didn't have those skills yet. So I eventually talked Lonnie into working with him, and Lonnie agreed and worked for months with him in a rehearsal studio that we were renting in Vernon. And it just ended up coming around, and he was that missing link, and I thought that he was the guy to do it. And I eventually had to tell him, listen, if we don't get Jimmy, I'm quitting. I'm not doing this. Because I knew, even though Jimmy wasn't at our level musically, that we could work with him, and it created this sound. And Jimmy was just playing with piss and vinegar, and it was like, wow, this is great. And so
a little bit of a Keith Moon free spirit.
Yeah, just free spirit, and it was just like it's the first major thing he's ever did, and he was very lucky too, because when we ended up doing our demo and ended up going through whatever, even before Ted got there, we were working with Garth Richardson. Garth Richardson is a brother from another mother. I hail him. He's one of the greatest producers around that I've ever worked with, and Garth created all those drum parts that Jimmy was playing, and he was very fortunate that we had Garth to create those things to show Jimmy the different things he could do with the drums.
So he mentored him.
Yes, absolutely, and that's what got us that. We're all four of us were on the same page, and were able to do that. And when we eventually met Ted, we were at that point where we had all this material that I had written. We had some material that Mick had written, that me and Lonnie had written together. Jimmy, of course, didn't write anything on any of the records, but we were at that point where we really wanted to do something special. And I know me and Mick would go to these different meetings with different producers, and they just kind of rubbed us the wrong way. They weren't like, cool and open, and we wanted somebody that was fun. We didn't want to have this drudgery of, we got to make this record. We wanted to be like, we're going to make this record, So eventually our manager, David Kaplan, called us up one day. We were at rehearsal, and he said, listen, Roberta Peterson wants to send her brother down to go and see you guys play. And Roberta Peterson was head of A&R at Warner Brothers. So we're going, her brother, well, we're thinking this kid's going to come. Okay, her brother. And Dave's like, no, her brother's Ted Templeman. I was like, oh, God, he can't come here today. We're not ready for this. So he eventually came down, and he was just a sweetheart and an angel. He always has been, and really loved what he heard.
So he got it the first day?
Yeah, the first day he said, listen, and he's sitting there writing, and he goes, listen, I'm going to raise my hand when I've heard enough. So when I raise my hand, just stop. Even if you're in the middle of the song, just stop. So he raised his hand a couple times, and he's doing the writing, and after we finished it, we sat down, we were joking around, talking to him, and he says, hey, I want to ask you guys a question. You guys want to do a record with me? And we're just like, yes. Yes. Where do you need us?
Right,
let's go.
Where do we show up?
That was so exciting for me, and for the band, and I know that I'd waited such a long time to work with this prolific producer that I idolized, like Ted Templeman. My favorite band was Van Halen, and The Who, and Black Sabbath, and here's Ted, and Aerosmith, and he did Done with Mirrors, and it's like, wow, so he just came in and was our the fifth member He just let us do whatever. Just do what you do. Let me record what you do, and let me teach you a couple things about what I did. We just basically recorded like Van Halen recorded their first record.
Yeah.
We did it like in a week and a half, 2 weeks. It was done.
What studio was that?
101.
Okay.
Off Lancashire.
Sure. Now, obviously, Smooth Up In You just sent you guys in the stratosphere on MTV and rock radio. Tell us how that song came together.
I wrote that song because I was with Al DeBarge, and I got to give Al credit for it. Al was on top of his game and had like 2 buses. When I was on the road with them, this guy was like, you know, he just hit with Who's Johnny, you know. He was with the DeBarge Family, all those hits. He was holding Donna to the rhythm, the beat of the Rhythm of the Night. Yeah. All these tunes, and
Motown thought he was going to be the next Michael Jackson.
Yeah, totally. And he was a really good friend of mine. And he's like, when he pulled me in to play guitar, I was like, oh my gosh. And so he'd always, at the end of the night, he'd always have this suite. He's like, Torein, come up, man. I got a bunch of really beautiful gals upstairs, you know. So I'd go up there, and he was so smooth. He was just like the smoothest character. He's like, you know, Marvin Gaye smooth.
Right,
just
silky.
Silky, just and so multifaceted, talented musically, and just brilliant. I loved hanging around with him. He'd always come in, he'd tell the same story all the time. He'd talk, and he'd go, girl, your skin's so soft, you're so beautiful. I just, you know, if you didn't mind, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I just love to go smooth up in you, smooth as silk, smooth as... And I used to hear this all the time. The girls were going, oh, Al, you're so bad. Don't say that, you know. And I go, one of these days, I want to write a song called Smooth Up In You. He goes, good luck getting it played on the radio. So I was like, I'm telling you, I'm going to write this song about what we're doing out here and stuff. And I did it. And so when we eventually, I remember, I'll never forget this. I'm at Warner Brothers, and I'm getting ready to walk into Benny's office, and I hear this amazing piano playing, like he's playing like a piece from Beethoven, I believe. It was this thing, and I go, I only know one person that plays like that. That's Al DeBarge. So I walk in, and I had telling Benny, because he hadn't seen me since, you know, we had the success, and he's playing, and blah, 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 and he turns around, and he goes. And I go, hey, Al, what's going on? And he stands up and goes, oh my God, you did it! He tackles me on the fucking couch. He goes, you wrote that song and you did it. He goes, I can't believe they're playing it. I go, well, the only reason why they're playing it is because we called the song Smooth Up.
Yeah.
They didn't want to play it if it was called Smooth Up In You.
Yeah.
So that's where the powers that be at Warner Brothers said, well, why don't we do this? And, you know, eventually got played, and the rest was history.
Man, just hit like an atom bomb.
Yeah, man.
And then...